On the morning of April 10th in the year 1854, Baha'u'llah's household awoke to a startling discovery. He had vanished from Baghdad. They would later learn that he had retreated to the rugged mountains of Sulaymáníyyih in Iraqi Kurdistan. He was accompanied only by a friend and attendant, Hamadani, a Muslim entrusted with funds to pose as a merchant. Baha'u'lláh had sought solitude, disguising himself as a humble dervish under the name Darvish Muhammad-i-Irani. He carried little more than a change of clothes and an alms bowl, that of a wandering mystic, which is now preserved in the Bahá'í International Archives in Haifa, Israel. His initial refuge was Sargalu, a mountain 3 days' walk from Sulaymáníyyih. There he subsisted on milk and rice procured from nearby towns, living in caves or crude stone shelters used seasonally by peasants. Events suggest this period mirrored the purification process undergone by prophets in the past, such as Jesus and Muhammad, with Baha'u'lláh spending his days in prayer, chanting, and reflection amid the wilderness. In a letter to his cousin Miriam after his return, he described his companions as merely birds of the air and beasts of the field. According to Baluzi's book, Baha'u'lláh, the King of Glory, whenever Baha'u'lláh came into Sulaymáníyyih to make use of the public bath or to make any purchases, he would stay in the theological seminary of Maulana Khalid, who was at that time an old man highly revered among the Kurds. He requested Darvish Muhammad draw up a document which would perpetuate the custodianship of his institution for his descendants. That and other works from Baha'u'llah's pen are now owned by families in Sulaymáníyyih, who refuse to part with them at any price. Additionally, other accounts note that although Baha'u'lláh initially succeeded in severing ties with the world, his presence did not remain hidden. Travelers and migrant farmers likely encountered him, noting his ascetic life, a practice revered by Sufi mystics of the region, and word of this detached soul spread. Before long, a leader of the Naqshbandi Sufi order sought him out. Though details of their meeting are unclear, the sheikh grew attached to Baha'u'lláh and eventually convinced him to leave Sargalu, where he had dwelt for somewhat less than a year, and reside at his seminary in Sulaymáníyyih around the year 1855. In Sulaymáníyyih, at that time a town of some 6,000 Sunni Kurds, hostile to Shia Persians, Baha'u'llah's dervish disguise initially shielded his identity. Yet his true nature soon emerged. A student of the Sheikh Ismail stumbled upon a sample of his exquisite calligraphy, an art he had mastered as a Persian noble, and shared it with the seminary. Astonished by the skill from an apparent hermit, the Sufis and townsfolk began to uncover his aristocratic roots through his writings and correspondence. Among the Sufis, Baha'u'lláh engaged deeply with their traditions. Here again, based on a note from the Bahá'í scholar Ḥusayn Alí. One day, they asked him to explain the intricacies of the book, The Meccan Revelations, by the great Andalusian mystic Ibn Arabi. Baha'u'lláh replied that he had never read it and did not know of its contents, but would grant them their wish. So every day, a page would be read in his presence, and he would expound and explain the views of that celebrated mystic seer. Then they begged him to compose an ode in the style of the famous Egyptian mystic Ibn Farid. The result was a poem of utmost eloquence, which gained widespread fame. It originally consisted of 2,000 couplets, but Baha'u'lláh chose 127 of them, which he allowed to be copied and preserved. A dazzling dialogue between Baha'u'lláh and the voice of the Holy Spirit, called the Maid of Heaven. His eventual return to Baghdad in late 1855 was precipitated by tragedy. His friend and attendant, Hamadani, en route to Sargalu with goods for Bahá'u'lláh, had been fatally attacked by thieves. Hamadani bequeathed his possessions to Darvish Muhammad-i-Irani. Thus, reports of this mysterious dervish reached Baghdad, and with Hamadani's death, Bahá'u'llah's family was able to piece together his identity. His 2-year exile thus ended, but the challenges awaiting him in Baghdad would soon test his resolve anew.